we're joined from Cairo by the writer and political analyst, Mr. Bashir Abdel Fattah. Welcome, sir, to joining us here on Qnews.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Let's start off here about to asking what practical steps are needed now to turn Egypt and Bahrain's phone call into actionable progress on Gaza's ceasefire, as well as immediate access to aid.
Now, Egypt is promoting the measures in order to deliver to the second stage of the agreement of ceasefire in order to stop the Israeli attacks on Gaza and to begin the reconstruction process in order to put an end to the suffering of the Palestinians, humanitarian suffering of the Palestinians. So I think Egypt is keen on ending the dilemma and the suffering of the Palestinians, and it is trying to invest the American support to this effort in order to put pressures on the Israelis to accept to begin the second stage of the agreement. Otherwise, the Palestinians will suffer, and also the ceasefire will collapse. That's why the Egyptians and the Bahrainis are concentrating on put an end to the Israeli attacks and the suffering of the Palestinians.
Okay, if we could talk a bit about the International Stabilization Force. Now, if it is approved, what mandate and command structure would best support Egypt's plan, as well as speed up, the Palestinian Authorities' return into Gaza and having Palestinians basically self-govern?
There is some sort of ambiguity on this international forces. The American president claims that it will be held by the next month, but I don't think it will be easy to do that because there are many obstacles, many dilemmas according to the legal mission of these forces. In addition to that, many countries still refuse to participate in these forces because of the Israeli attacks all the time. Also, the Israeli obstacles in front of the mission of these forces. As we know, Israel wants these forces to be an instrument in the Israeli hands in order to take the weapons of Hamas and the other Palestinian armed forces. But the international community needs these forces in order to stabilize Gaza and to put an end to the Israeli attacks. So I think there are many legal obstacles and political calculations that delay the establishment of these forces by next month, as the American president promised.
Well, as you said there, sir, that things may not be clear when it comes to Washington and the Stabilization Force. But Washington is considering, according to Trump, a U.S. general to lead the mission without having ground troops there. How would that somehow affect the buy-in from Arab as well as European contributors, and as well as Israel's willingness to withdraw? Wouldn't it be more motivational for the Israelis to leave if Americans are involved?
Till now, many countries have some sort of suspicious thinking of these forces. For example, they are worried about the mission and the American leadership to these forces, because, as we know, the American president is supporting Netanyahu all the time. So they are afraid that these forces will not remain as stabilizing forces, but as supporting forces to the Israeli project and the Israeli conspiracies against Gaza and the Palestinians. So I don't think that it will be easy to form these forces by next month. In addition to that, the Palestinian Authority has also many suspicions about these forces, because they are afraid it might be an occupation authority in Gaza, in addition to the Israeli occupation to the district.
Okay, if we can move to Europe here. Now, Spain obviously recognized the state of Palestine, and it was heavily praised, especially by President Mahmoud Abbas. Can this move from Europeans likely translate into some sort of concrete timeline to help in the reconstruction efforts in Gaza, create security guarantees, and basically ensure the free movement as well as reaching the state of Palestine, having a two-state solution in place?
Although it was an important step from the Europeans to recognize the Palestinian state, but we can say that the concrete influence in the Middle East due to the United States, not the Europeans. Europeans can give, for example, financial support, political support, but still the United States have the concrete influence in the Middle East and the concrete pressures on Israel. And Netanyahu will never accept any European pressures, but only the American pressures. So we cannot rely on the European rule. Only the Americans can do a vital role in promoting this process and keeping the ceasefire agreement.
Well, Egypt, since the beginning of this onslaught, has always insisted that there will be no displacement of Palestinians, and as well as preserving Gaza's geographic and demographic status as is. What sort of tools can ensure that crossings stay open in both directions and that civilians will be able to return safely and not be forced out of their lands?
Egypt insists on opening the corridor from two sides. Rafah corridor should be opened from the two sides because Egypt knows very well that the Israelis are insisting on the scenario of the forcing immigration for the Palestinians from Gaza, either to Sinai or any other country in Africa, Asia, for example. So Egypt knows well, if they open the corridor from the Egyptian side, it will be one-way cross from the Gaza Strip to Egypt without any right to get back to Gaza or to return to Gaza again. So it should be opened from two sides as the peace agreement or the ceasefire agreement said and the plan of the American President Trump said. That's why Egypt is refusing to open the corridor from one side. I think it needs an American pressures on Netanyahu in order to open the corridor from two sides, in order to promote the humanitarian assistance and to help the Palestinians to get the health care in Egypt and to get back to their country anytime.
Well, sir, let's talk a bit about UNRWA here. Now, the Israelis have obviously tried to demonize it, hinder them, and stop them in every way possible, even though they've been described as indispensable by many, countries around the world. How can Egypt and the UN, as well as donors, shield the core services offered by the UNRWA while also embedding some sort of monitoring so that the aid system remains credible and scaled?
As we know, Israel never welcomed UNRWA in the Palestinian territory, although it is supported from the United Nations and from the international community. But the Israelis do not want any support to the Palestinians because they want them to suffer in order to accept the migration, the forced migration from Gaza Strip. That's why the Israelis also are delaying the reconstruction of Gaza Strip in order to oblige the Palestinians to get out of the Gaza Strip. So we will delay the UNRWA efforts in Gaza in order to promote and indeed the suffering of the Palestinians in Gaza Strip. The United States do not put any pressure on Netanyahu in that sense. And the obstacle and the delays in front of UNRWA from the Israeli side is getting more and more in order to delay its rule in Gaza. Because the Israelis knows very well, if any humanitarian support come to Gaza, the Palestinians can remain in the Gaza Strip, but they want to enforce them to get out of the Strip.
Okay, from Cairo, that was a political writer and political analyst, Mr. Bashir Abdel Fattah. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Q News.